Friday, a stunning News Nation exclusive. Is the U.S. government still lying to us about UFOs?
We're not alone.
Special correspondent Ross Coulthard goes one-on-one with a former Pentagon official who's risking everything to unearth the truth.
We're well beyond reasonable doubt.
Sharing secrets and new information never revealed before until now.
It sounds crazy.
What I'm saying is real.
Confessions of a UFO Hunter. Friday at 9, 8 Central, only on News Nation.
While our government's official position is not to speculate on this subject, we can choose to let our minds explore other possibilities, to use our imaginations. For if we consider that astroscientists agree on one point, that the possibility of life elsewhere is not only quite probable, some feel it is there without a doubt. Let us suppose then that these objects are real space vehicles, extraterrestrial in origin, and not an illusion of the mind.
There's nothing to hide. There's nothing to hide at all.
Welcome, everyone, to Somewhere in the Live Stream. I am your host, Ryan Sprague, and I'm in a little bit different of an environment tonight. I'm in a hotel room as I am traveling at the moment, but I did not want to miss this live stream with you guys because there's a lot to talk about. Some stories that I've wanted to talk about for a while now, some news stories as well. And we're going to start tonight with Stonehenge. There has been a jaw-dropping development with Stonehenge. We will get to that in just a little bit. But I do want to say hello to everyone in the live chat. Most of our regulars are here tonight. We have Johan is here, Melissa. I believe I saw James Craig as well. The biologist Ian Smith from London. We've got Ruth is here. Who else? Jake Boss, welcome. Jeffrey is here. Camilla is here. Donnie is here. And Anthony, Andres. Ooh, some new people as well. Hello, hello. Welcome, guys. Welcome to Kurt as well. This is a live stream that we do every Sunday where we talk about all the latest UFO headlines and space news and stuff like that. And it's just a lot of fun. Super laid back. It's going to be very laid back tonight. I don't know how long or short we're going to go. I've been traveling all day. So has Suzanne, our wonderful moderator. So we're both exhausted, but we're really excited as well to share these stories with you guys. So little talk shop before we get to the news. The super chat and super stickers are open if you would like to help out the show. This is a easy and immediate way to do so. Somewhere in the live stream is always free for you to consume, but it's not free to create. Neither is the Somewhere in the Skies podcast. So if you would like to help us out, every penny goes right back in to making the show bigger and better. And we can't thank you enough for that. You could also join our Patreon campaign where you get bonus episodes of the podcast. You get early access to the podcast, and you get to ask our guests your listener questions. You get priority to ask them questions as well. So if you would like to become a Patreon subscriber, head on over to patreon.com/somewhereskies to do so. What else do I have for you guys as well? Oh yeah, if you can't help us monetarily, all I ask is that you like this video, click subscribe, turn on notifications. That's all I could ever ask of you guys as well. Anomicon is fastly approaching. Anomicon is a free virtual conference on the anomalous that I founded last year. It was a huge success, so we decided to do it again this year as well. It will be taking place September 1st and September 2nd right here on YouTube for free. It'll also be streaming on Twitch, on X, and on Facebook. And yeah, we have dozens of speakers from all over the world talking about all things anomalous, whether it's UFOs, ghosts, the paranormal, supernatural, dreams, psychics, tarot, witchcraft, lake monsters, you name it. We will have a guest speaker talking about it. It's so much fun. You guys get to interact with us all day long and hear these awesome and see these awesome presentations. But something new we're doing this year at Anomicon is we are featuring music. So we have 7 bands and musicians joining us for Anomicon, and we are going to be featuring music videos by them having something to do with the anomalous. I'm so excited. We've already confirmed all of the musical guests. If you want to learn more about all of them, you can head on over to the website for Anomicon, and there is a tab right there for our musicians, and that is anomicon.com. So you can check that out as well, right there on the screen for you guys. What else do I have for you? Oh, yeah. If you are interested in sponsoring Anomicon, we do have a couple slots left for that. If you have a business, a brand, if you're a content creator, anything like that, and you're looking to get your name out there, get it in front of thousands of people who will be watching Anomicon, reach out to me. We're always looking for sponsors for the event, and in return, you get to promote your product, your business, whatever it might be during the event. You can learn more about that by contacting me directly. My email should be in the show notes, and it will also be on the screen as well. Or you can reach out to me right on the Anomicon website too, if you would like to be a sponsor for Anomicon 2024. And I believe that is it, guys. Start using those hashtags for Anomicon. If you head on over to the Somewhere Skies Twitter account, I'm posting who our speakers are right now. So you can learn about who will be speaking at Anomicon over on our Twitter, and start sharing those. Start using the hashtag Anomicon. Let's get it going in the algorithms over there on Twitter, X, whatever the hell you want to call it. And yeah, get the buzz going early. Hashtag Anomicon. And that's going to do it for Talk Shop, guys. So let's move to the news of the week. And we are starting with a really fun, interesting story. I had the opportunity to go to Stonehenge not too long ago, maybe a little over a year ago. And it was amazing. I will never forget it. I'm hoping to get back there at least one more time before I eventually leave the UK. And it's just such a cool, mysterious place. I mean, it has been forever. But the mystery, or I guess the plot, has only thickened when it comes to Stonehenge. This story came out just a couple days ago, and I'm going to read the headline from the Independent UK. Mystery of Stonehenge deepens after jaw-dropping discovery. So, researchers have discovered that the central 6-ton, 12,000-pound altar stone at Stonehenge, previously thought to be from Wales, was actually transported over 460 miles from northeastern Scotland, about 5,000 years ago. So I'm going to go ahead and play a video. I believe this comes to us from Sky News. That's going to tell you guys a little bit more about this story. And then we'll talk a little bit more about it on the other side with some extra stuff from the article. But go ahead and give this video a watch. And yeah, I'll see you on the other side.
The mystery of Stonehenge just got deeper. New research reveals that 5,000 years ago, the altar stone largely buried at the centre of the ring was brought from northern Scotland and not from Wales as previously thought. Somehow Neolithic people with only primitive tools moved a 6-ton rock the length of Britain. The scientists were stunned.
This sort of transportation distance is amazing. It looks like a sandstone rock that's micaceous, so it's a little bit glittery. You would think, oh wow, there's rocks like this in pretty close to here. I would have expected it to come from there, but no, absolutely gobsmacked. It's definitely Scottish. So,
and well worth bringing that distance, quite clearly.
For these people, that rock had a lot of significance.
The new finding means Stonehenge was built with rocks brought from across the island of Britain. The largest, the 25-ton sarsen stones, were brought from the Marlborough Downs in Wiltshire, just 20 miles away. The smaller bluestones were transported from the Preseli Hills in West Wales, a distance of 140 miles. And now research shows the altar stone came the furthest, 500 miles from the Orcadian Basin that lies north of Inverness.
How exactly the stone was transported so far is unclear. If it came over land, people would have had to bring it through dense forests and over mountains. Alternatively, it could have been brought by sea on a giant raft. But this is a huge stone.
The geologists used techniques from the mining industry to study crystals within the altar stone. It provided a unique signature that matched rocks in Scotland.
It certainly implies a huge level of communication, exchange, people travelling. It's quite hard for us with our modern mindset, I think, to imagine.
The finding gives archaeologists more to ponder. Stonehenge was probably a temple, but why a rock from Scotland had such significance is a puzzle. Thomas Moore, Sky News in Wiltshire.
Incredible. I mean, how? How did they get it there? I mean, that would have taken years to just get that rock there. And why? Why, when they had the same exact type of geologic finds in, in the area itself, why would they travel 500 miles from Scotland to there to bring it? Scotland must have some sort of significance. And as they mentioned in the news segment there, it says a lot about the communication that was going on at the time. I mean, this article right here says the discovery has huge implications and is likely to transform archaeologists' perceptions around key aspects of life in prehistoric Britain. Up to now, most scholars have assumed that British Neolithic society was exclusively local or regional, based on tribal, clan, or similar identities, but the newly discovered Stonehenge Scotland link, when combined with the Welsh origin of some of the Stonehenge stones, suggests that there might also have been a pan-British aspect to how Neolithic Britons lived. Let me see here if I have anything else. Because the Neolithic people who transported the 6-ton rock from northern Scotland or Orkney to southern England must have known that Stonehenge existed, that it was being expanded, and precisely what shape and size of giant rock was required. It's just astounding. And it suggests geopolitical cooperation or even some religious commonality. So this is just fascinating to me. Not just because I live in Scotland now, and it's cool to know that a piece of where I live now is part of Stonehenge, but that there was some sort of communication going on at the time, which, again, this is completely going to change everything archaeologists thought they knew, and it only deepens the mystery of Stonehenge even more. So I'm going to go up and see what you guys are saying in the chat before we move to UFOs, which I know is what you guys are here for, as usual. We'll get there. We got plenty to talk about on that front. There was someone else I wanted to say hello to in the chat here. Raphael, love the show. Thank you so much, man. Thanks for being here. Jim is here as well. Ryan, you must go to Avebury, Ruth says. I must. It is a must. I will make that happen. Gotta start traveling more here. I mean, I'm in a hotel literally right now, so I am traveling, but I got to see more of Scotland. I haven't been able to really get up into Inverness too much. I did go to Loch Ness, so I went through the area, but I want to spend a couple days there for sure. I haven't even been to Glasgow yet, so yeah, I got to get on that. Definitely got to get on that. Ted says, I nearly got arrested at Stonehenge, climbed over the barbed wire at dawn, set off pressure sensors. Tad, why would you do that? Don't be that person. Don't be that person, man. Commander Crimbo says, it's said to be where Merlin levitated. Hell yeah, man. I'm all about that. Hello to Pat Gallagher. Robert is here. Zeg, the Mandalorian. Hi, guys. Brought by sea. Yes, that was mentioned in the news segment. That is another possibility. But again, they didn't even know how to navigate the oceans or the coasts at that time. So you do have to wonder, like, how did they know where to go to get to Stonehenge? And then once they got there, how did they get it to the actual location? So, man, I love this stuff. I love this stuff. Hello, Ryan, says Zeg. Hello, guys. Thanks for being here, everyone. Let's see. Let's move to, I guess this is UFO related. The WOW signal. The WOW signal is back in the news, guys. Remember this? I did a good write-up about the WOW signal over at the Debrief. If you go over to the debrief.org, I think they have a search engine there. If you type in WOW signal, my article should show up. Kind of just going over what it is and what scientists believed it to be. But now we might have an answer. And this story, once again, comes to us from the Debrief. And the title was 47-year-old WOW signal mystery solved? ? The Arecibo Observatory scientists think they have an answer. So I'm going to go ahead and read straight from this article, guys, from Christopher Plain over at the Debrief. So detected by the Ohio State University Big Ear Telescope on August 15, 1977, the WOW signal got its name because astronomer Jerry R. Eyman was so impressed he wrote WOW in the signal printout's margins. Since then, the signal has continued to fascinate the scientific community, including the possibility that it may have been sent by an extraterrestrial civilization light years from Earth due to its high power, strong signal-to-noise ratio, and narrow bandwidth. So for many, many years, people believed that this was possibly our first message from an alien intelligence. But now a team of scientists from the Planetary Habitability Laboratory at the University of Puerto Rico at Arecibo believe they may have finally solved the mystery of the infamous WOW signal. The PHL's lead researcher, Professor Abel Mendez, and his colleagues say that the vast amount of data they collected with the Arecibo's iconic 305-meter telescope before it collapsed in 2020, as well as additional data collected by the facility's 12-meter telescope since 2023, has led them to a potentially astronomical solution to the enduring mystery. The WOW signal may have been caused by a unique astrophysical event, the sudden brightening of a cold hydrogen cloud due to stimulated emissions from a transient strong radiation source, such as a magnetar flare or a soft gamma repeater. These rare events might cause hydrogen clouds to momentarily shine much brighter, potentially explaining the fleeting nature of the WOW signal. Before publishing the results in a peer-reviewed journal, Mendez says that they have made their initial draft of the paper available to outside researchers via their website, the Arecibo WOW Technosignature Research Project. That is a mouthful. The study, titled Arecibo WOW 1, an explanation for the WOW signal, is currently being refined based on feedback from the scientific community and will soon be submitted for peer review to an astrophysical journal. There you go, guys. We may possibly have an answer. I know for a long time, skeptics and astrophysicists believed that it might have been a comet that had passed by. And it caused such a, I guess, loud or powerful burst that that's what caused the WOW quote-unquote signal. But now they're saying that no, it might actually be something far more rare and I guess conventional in a sense. Like, it does happen in space. It does happen more than once, so it's not just a fluke. But there you go. We may have an answer to the WOW signal. And I know it's not an answer that a lot of people want. But hey, that's not what it's about. It's about figuring out what this thing actually was. And they believe they have. But now it goes through peer review. And until it's published in a scientific journal and confirmed and agreed upon by all scientists, it will remain a mystery. But for now, the WOW signal might be explained. R.I.P. RSC, Zach says. I know. Did you see the video of its collapse? It was like heartbreaking to watch that. You can probably YouTube it. It's pretty sad. Pretty sad. There is a link in the chat too, guys, for the debrief article, just so you are aware. All right, we're going to move to UFOs, but right before we do that, I do want to give a special thank you to Kiss for the super chat. Truly do appreciate that. Like I said, guys, your support means the world to us here at Somewhere in the Live Stream, so thank you. Thank you very much for that. What do I know about quasi-crystals? I don't know anything about that. Kiss. Tell me more. Tell me more. Like, did he have a car? Sorry, guys. Just singing a little bit of Grease for you. Just looking at what I have here next. Oh, all right. Now we're entering Ryan Sprague territory. USOs. You guys want to talk a little bit about underwater UFOs? Let's do it. Let's move to our next story. That comes to us from Popular Mechanics. And I do have a couple accompanying videos with this one as well, which I think you guys will really, really enjoy. This article comes to us, like I said, from Popular Mechanics, and it was titled, "Are Underwater UFOs an Imminent Threat?" The U.S. government sure thinks so, and here is the proof. So the interest in claims of unidentified submerged objects, or USOs, has grown in the past few years, primarily because of the now famous Tic Tac UFO incident off the coast of the Pacific, and the lesser-known Aguadilla Airport UFO sighting. But USOs have been reported for many, many decades. And that's where our first video clip for this story comes in, guys. I'm going to play this one. I know this figure is a little controversial to some out there. It's from UFO historian Richard Dolan. And he was recently on News Nation to talk all about USOs because he's working on what will probably be the definitive book on the topic of USOs. And he has found over something like 700 cases of USOs throughout history. And he talks a little bit about them in this segment. So I'm going to go ahead and play that for you now, and we will continue with our story on USOs after that. Enjoy.
Aircrafts, most of us think UFOs, right? And we think of space. But there's another area of phenomenon you may not have considered, and researchers have been diving in to study them. We're talking about USOs, unidentified submerged objects. There have been so many reports of underwater phenomenon that it recently sparked the federal government to change the name of UFOs to UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomena, to include land, air, and sea. However, 80% of the world's ocean remains unexplored, making USOs harder to scientifically prove. Joining me now is Richard Dolan, a UAP historian and host of Richard Dolan Intelligent Disclosure on YouTube. Richard, good morning.
Hi, Nick. Thank you very much for having me here. It's a pleasure.
Help us break this down. You've researched more than 600 cases of unidentified submerged objects. What are some of the challenges you face with researching water-based phenomena and then getting that information to the public writ large?
Great question. Probably the biggest challenge is simply getting access to a lot of these reports. Most people are landlubbers. We live on the land. We're not out in the middle of the water. Unless you live on the shore of an ocean or of a large lake, you're going to be unlikely to see such water-based phenomenon. And so, you know, of all of the UFO or UAP reports that we have, only a small number are actually truly USO type reports, but they do come in. I've gone through some of the biggest databases that are publicly available. I've been given access to the MUFON case management system. I've gone through all of the cases on the National UFO Reporting Center. And there are a number of other databases that have been available to me that I've gone into, been very grateful. Aside from that, just tons of journals, books, articles. I scour them where I can. So at this point, I've collected a little more than 600 very good, I would say extremely good cases that I have a feeling people will be interested in learning more about.
Tell me about one or two of the most fascinating ones that you've researched.
Yeah. Well, about 20% of all of the cases I found have to do with one of the nation's military, one of the world's militaries. Most of those are United States military, by far, most of the ones that I've collected. And I can say, you know, when we hear the folks at the Pentagon say things like, well, we're going to look into this problem. We'll get back to you when we find out more about it. When I look at some of these Navy cases, there is no chance whatsoever that the upper echelon at the Pentagon and the Navy do not know. One example, there was a case from 1971. It goes back a bit. We've got many more recent cases, but this one from 1971 involved the USS John F. Kennedy aircraft carrier. In July of that year, we have a very detailed account from a gentleman who was aboard that ship, ran communications, and described just after they had finished a very intensive period of training called carrier qualifications, or CARQUALs. They were in the Caribbean, and they saw this massive orange glowing spherical object that hovered above the ship, and according to what he said, shut down their communications for a good 20-25 minutes while the ship went to general quarters, battle stations. I would say if you're the United States Navy, there's probably nothing more important to you than your aircraft carriers,
Absolutely.
which have nuclear weapons. And anything that shuts it down even for 20 minutes has got to be of the highest level. That is not the only such case. There are many of them. A few of them from the old Soviet Navy as well, but quite a few from the United States
Richard
Navy.
Dolan, I got to go, but I want you to give me that website one more time.
Well, I have a YouTube channel called Richard Dolan Intelligent Disclosure. People can check me out on the web at richarddolanmembers.com.
Richard Dolan, thank you so much, sir.
All right, guys, there we go. Richard Dolan schooling us on USOs. That was an interesting case. I've actually never heard of that one that he brought up. Pretty interesting. Now, he did bring up, you know, the Pentagon's involvement now with studying USOs, and this has to do with Arrow, with the work they're doing. And like they mentioned at the top of this news segment, the changing of unidentified aerial phenomena to unidentified anomalous phenomena, to also include, you know, land and water. And like Dolan mentioned, there's been many cases throughout the years of these things. So in the article, back to Popular Mechanics, they said in a bipartisan effort, a group ultimately helped convince the U.S. government to legislate a name change for the term to UAP, like we mentioned. The slight name change may appear to be simple, but it proves the Pentagon sees underwater UFOs as a legitimate concern. In 2022, the terminology to describe unexplained incidents officially switched from aerial to anomalous. Congress enacted the name change that December. This legal change traces back to pressures from UFO enthusiasts who believe submerged and transmedium objects, which seem to fly between air and sea, should be included in the government's potential threat evaluation. These proponents include U.S. Navy Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet, PhD, who published a report on the potential maritime threats of UFOs. And Tim would go on to say, a dearth of data about USOs and UAPs is unsettling because they jeopardize U.S. maritime security, which is already weakened by a relative ignorance about the global ocean. In addition, this is an opportunity to expand maritime science and meet the security and scientific challenges of the future. So there you go, guys. USOs. But it doesn't end there. I did an episode a while ago. I believe it was let me double check, episode 230 of the Somewhere in the Skies podcast, all about USOs and this thing called fast movers, which you're going to learn about in just a moment. And I actually had audio from Mark D'Antonio. For those of you who don't know, Mark is he's worked in astrophysics, astrobiology, photo analysis. He's worked in special effects, and he actually had contracts to work on effects things for promotional stuff for the U.S. Navy. And in doing so, having one of these contracts, he was invited on to a U.S. Navy submarine at one point, and something pretty interesting happened when they were underwater. So I want to go ahead and play that audio from the Somewhere in the Skies podcast for you guys and get your thoughts on it. It's a little long. It's about 7 minutes long or so, but it is a fascinating, compelling story. So I'm going to go ahead and play that for you guys now, and then we will wrap things up on USOs on the other side. Give this a watch.
Decades ago, when I was allowed to go on a nuclear submarine and visit with the crew and go to sea. This event was wonderful, and I've always said it's the most fun I've ever had being seasick. Well, this trip turned out to be rather eventful rather than uneventful. It turned out that once at sea, I actually became seasick, and it was usually the case that when the sub's on the surface, it rocks and rolls like you can't believe. After all, it's effectively like a large pipe with end caps on it, right? So it rocks and rolls. And so I became seasick. And during that time, I visited the individual who passed as the doctor on the boat. And he was a kid, way younger than me. And he gave me some medication. Actually, it was a patch that he gave me to put on. When I was trying to overcome my seasickness, I went over and sat in the sonar shack, it's called. Now, you have the folks that steer the boat. You've got the two gentlemen that drive the boat. You have the first officer, the executive officer, the captain, and they're in the main control room of the boat. And off to the side, if you're looking forward from the stern, off to the right side, on the other side of what's called the chart table, there's a row of screens, and those are the sonar screens, and they line the starboard side of the boat, which is the right as seen from the back looking forward. And so I sat down in one of the empty seats after asking the kid running the sonar if I could sit there. He says, "Yes, sir, you may sit there." I said, "Okay." And I didn't talk to him because he was busy looking at the sonar, tracking things. Now, it's true that once you submerge the boat feels like you feel right now, sitting in your room or place of residence. You don't feel much. You feel vibrations. You feel vibration coming through your feet. All right, but you don't really feel anything else. You don't feel the rocking and rolling anymore, as long as you go deep enough. And the boat felt no rocking and rolling. Okay, we'll put it that way. So, as we're going along, the kid on the sonar, the tech, is listening and looking at the screen, which is called the waterfall sonar. I couldn't read it. I mean, I did take some lessons on how to read it, but very inept, and I wouldn't even think that I could read it, and I wouldn't try. And so I'm sitting there, and I start to close my eyes because the patch is starting to do its work. You know, it was some period of time since the patch got put on. And as I'm sitting there and starting to actually doze off, all you hear is the noise inside the boat, and it starts to become echoey in your head as you start to fall asleep, right? And that's the thing about these submarines. They're very loud inside. You hear high pressure air, you know, whoosh, you hear people talking, blah, 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 okay? And it all blends into one white noise pattern in the background. Now, the pride of the Navy is that sound never makes it out of the boat's hull. And that's the pride of the Navy. Okay, they've gotten that down to a science. Well, anyway, as I sat there dozing off, all of a sudden, and it could have been sometime after I dozed off, I don't know, the tech on the sonar yells, con sonar, fast mover, fast mover. And I jolt awake. My seasickness is gone, probably because of the adrenaline I was now feeling, because to me a fast mover meant a torpedo. And I was immediately regretting my decision to go for this quote-unquote ride on a submarine, when the fact was, I felt like I was going to die out here now. Well, the executive officer, known as the XO, comes around and he says, "What do you have?" And I'm sitting to the left of the kid at his station. He's, of course, to the right of me, and he's looking to the right of him at the executive officer who's looking down at him from a standing position. So the kid's looking up at him and telling him things, and I was behind the kid's heads, basically, so I couldn't hear everything he said because of that noise I told you about. But he gave the executive officer the bearing and the range. It was a very short term trace, I guess, on the sonar. And then the executive officer said, well, how fast was it moving? And I heard him say that because the XO was facing me. And the kid actually answered him and said loudly, in a way that I can't tell you how loud he was. He was very loud because he was incredulous. The kid actually had never seen anything like this before, you could tell. He held his hands out to his sides, and he went, "Several hundred knots, sir." And the XO looks at the waterfall display, the sonar screen, looks at the kid and says, "Okay," he said, "log it and dog it," which meant to me bury it, log it and then hide it. And the kid just responded, "Sir, yes, sir," went back to his console and started getting on with his work. Now, look, I'm a guest on this boat, right? I was invited to go for this excursion. And so I figured I would be forgiven for thinking I actually had some kind of special merit being on the boat. So I got up, Mr. Big Shot that I thought I was, and I went over to the XO. I said, "XO, I'm somewhat familiar with these fast movers. Is there anything I can help you with?" He looks at me and he goes, "D'Antonio, is that correct?" I go, "Yes, sir." He says, "Having a good trip so far?" I go, "Yes, sir." And he looks me right in the eye and says, "Let's keep it that way." And he turns and walks away. Okay, well, that put me in my place. So I basically felt, that's just not good. So I went and sat down thinking about this fast mover that they witnessed, that I basically was party to, and thought, this is real stuff. This is real. So I got off the boat. The XO nodded and shook my hand and said, "You have a good day now." I said, "I will. Trust me, I will." And that was that. A few years later, I had to do a job for the Joint Chiefs down in Washington. And I had an occasion to talk to one of the chiefs. And I asked him, "What can you tell me about the Fast Mover program, Chief?" And he looked at me and he could have said, "I have no idea what that is," or "I don't know, you tell me," or anything else. But instead, because apparently we work together, he looked at me and he says, "I'm sorry, Mark, I can't talk about that program." I think he probably heard me just stunned silence. You could hear my stunned silence. And from that point forward, I've known that USOs exist.
There you go, guys. What a dramatic encounter by Mark D'Antonio underwater. What do you think it was? What do you think the fast mover was? I want to know what you think in the chat, or put it in the comments below. What did Mark D'Antonio and the rest of that vessel see that day? Let me know. But the fact that, they said bag it and tag it, or what did he say? Log it and dog it. There we go. Wrong mantra, I guess. Is interesting. And that they were like, yeah, Mr. Civilian, sit down, know your role, and we've got this covered. So they clearly have dealt with these quote unquote fast movers before, and many Navy vessels have. Someone mentioned in the chat, I did want to bring this up. Thanks to Dan, USOs always remind me of David Fravor's story about the helicopter pilot who witnessed a USO suck down a test torpedo that was being recovered. Always wondered what was behind that story. Yes. I do know that we are going to learn a lot more about that story in Luis Elizondo's upcoming book, Imminent. So stay tuned for that. I know that story will be covered in the book for certain. Really interesting story, to say the least, whatever it was. Thanks for that, Dan. And a special thanks to James Craig for the super chat. As always, my friend, thank you so much for your constant support for the Anomicon Super Fund, he says. Thank you, James. Truly, truly do appreciate it. What are you guys saying? Let me see. What a fun story, Michelle says. All work, Lope says it was Godzilla. Have you guys seen -1 yet? I started it, but I haven't been able to get back to it yet. Because someone started watching Breaking Bad for like the 8th time again. Why do I do this to myself? Dalen says either a USO or a whale on speed with a rocket strapped to its back. That image alone, Dalen, is going to stick with me tonight, so thank you. Hello to Paranormal Pixie. Cool, they say. Reminds me of the movie Abyss, Andre says. Yeah. Tim thinks it could be drone technology, so that's interesting. That's interesting. Sea monster. Probably the Kraken, says Pat. Release the Kraken. Man, you guys really dug this story. Chat's going nuts. Hello, Night Gazer. Welcome. Good to see you. James says -1 is a fantastic movie. Well worth the watch. I'll get back to it. For sure. For sure. All right, guys. So we're going to take a very, very quick break, I promise. And we're going to come back to you with some really good stories. Did JFK know about UFOs? We're going to talk about a mysterious memo, or I guess, yeah, it was a memo that was uncovered that could suggest that, yes, he did know about UFOs. And we're also going to be talking about how U.S. Congress may be investigating the Peru alien mummies. I can't believe that just came out of my mouth. We're going to talk about it on the other side. Stick with us here at Somewhere in the Live Stream, and I'll see you when we get back. The Somewhere in the Skies podcast is free to listen to every week, but if you would like to help support the show, we have a very active Patreon page where you give what you think the show is worth. In return, you'll get early access to the main show, bonus episodes, and priority to ask our guests your listener questions. Your support truly makes the show continue and grow. So, to learn more and to join, visit patreon.com/somewhereskies. There you go, guys. A little promo to get you excited for Comic-Con. Once again, coming to us September 1st and September 2nd, a free virtual conference on the Anomalous featuring dozens of speakers, musical guests this year, and it's all going to be right here live on YouTube, on Twitch, on X, and on Facebook. You can learn more at anomicon.com. I'm constantly updating the speakers list over there. Just confirmed 2 new speakers today. So I'm very excited about that. So it's probably going to be about a 12-day event. No, I'm just kidding. 2 days. I promise. I promise. I'm just really, really excited. Getting amped. All right, guys, let's move to our story about JFK. This isn't a brand new story, but it's something I've wanted to tackle for a while now. I might actually do a whole episode on this in the near future. The connections between JFK, Marilyn Monroe, MJ-12, James Forrestal, all of that stuff. I just haven't decided yet on how exactly I'm going to tackle it. But the author of this book tackled it, and so did Ross Coulthart recently over at News Nation. So this story is What Did JFK Know About UFOs and the Burned Memo. So author William Lester says he uncovered a memo written by JFK and addressed to the CIA in which the president requests confidential information about UFOs. And let's get our slideshow back in here. Lester said he obtained the memo along with 2 others from the CIA under the Freedom of Information Act. In the memo, supposedly written on November 12th, 1963, the president ordered the CIA director to organize the agencies and to debrief him on all, quote, unknowns by the following February. 10 days later, Kennedy was assassinated. So here is the memo. I'm going to show a close-up of it for you guys. I don't know if you can read that. Hopefully you can. I had to do some de-blurring and enhancing of this. It's like all those computer tech people on police shows. Enhance, enhance, enhance. We can actually do that now. So basically, let's go ahead and read this. Classification review of all UFO intelligence files affecting national security. As I had discussed with you previously, I have initiated and have instructed James Webb to develop a program with the Soviet Union in joint space and lunar exploration. It would be very helpful if you would heed the high threat cases reviewed with the purpose of identification of bona fide as opposed to classified CIA and USAF sources. It is important that we make a clear distinction between the knowns and unknowns in the event the Soviets try to mistake our extended cooperation as a cover for intelligence gathering of their defense and space programs. When this data has been sorted out, I would like you to arrange a program of data sharing with NASA where unknowns are a factor. This will help NASA's mission directors in their defensive responsibilities. I would like an interim report on the data reviewed no later than February 1st, 1960. I can't read the year there. 1964. So yeah, again, guys, this came like within 10 days of JFK being assassinated. So the author, I want to make that clear, the author asserts that could it be possible that JFK was getting a little too close to the truth about UFOs and this had something to do with his assassination? I am not saying that. I want to make that very clear. But that was proposed by the author of this book. And it was also proposed by somebody that Ross Coulthart interviewed recently, again, over at News Nation. Let's see. Ross Coulthart, he sat down with former Australian intelligence official Jeff Cruikshank to dive deep into what JFK may have known about UFO reports and Operation Palladium, and whether there could be connections to JFK's assassination. So I want to go ahead and play that video for you guys. And yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about it on the other side. Let me see if I have that video here for you. Give me one sec. And I will pull that up. Thought I had it lined up here for you guys, but bear with me for just a moment. Plan for you. I'm vamping. Waiting for the video to upload. Let me go in the chat while it does that. What do you guys think? I think RFK told Marilyn more than JFK did, Michelle says. Interesting. Interesting. Here it is, guys.
Tell me why you think JFK knew something about the phenomenon.
Well, he knew quite a bit, Ross, as he entered the Oval Office in 1961. But what he didn't know was the existence of a very, very highly classified program called Palladium that was injecting false UAP signals into the Soviet air defense system, messing with their heads. And the man that was one of the masterminds of that program, as you alluded to, was David Lamar Christ, who was the CIA's real-life equivalent of James Bond's Q character. And he was languishing in the prison in Cuba.
Basically, Lamar Christ told all to his Russian and Cuban interrogators, do we assume?
Well, in his debrief, he was released in 1963 in April in a deal negotiated by James Donovan, who was the head of the OSS. General James Donovan was also a trained lawyer. In his debrief, the CIA found that Dave Christ had actually lied about what he'd told the Cubans, and he was prevented from leaving the country after that.
In terms of the Operation Palladium that you're talking about, Palladium, what are you saying? Are you saying that Operation Palladium is a proven operation that the CIA was running?
Yes, that's correct. That was declassified in 2003. One of the architects, Bud Whelan, spoke about it to the Roadrunners in 2003, and he said in that talk that they were recently declassified.
What the CIA was doing out of Atsugi in Japan and Peshawar in Pakistan was they were sending up spurious signals through radar that were tricking the Soviet air defense warning over the horizon radar into thinking that what they were seeing were, what, UFOs, UAPs?
Just phantom signals. They weren't sure what they were because at the time, this is the period before that ICBMs are actually the prime delivery method for nuclear weapons. So General Curtis LeMay's Strategic Air Command was the primary delivery mechanism for nuclear weapons to Soviet targets.
And so what they were doing was facilitating the ease of passage of the spy planes, the U-2 spy planes that were flying over the Soviet Union, because if the Soviets couldn't distinguish between those spurious signals, those UAPs, if you like, the UFOs, unidentified objects on their radar, they couldn't figure out what was a real spy plane or what was a spurious signal. Is that the point?
That's correct. The person they thought was going to be the president was Richard Nixon, who ran the 5412 committee. He knew all about Palladium. He approved it.
There we go. There's a lot to unpack with all of this. And I do want to go deeper into it in the future, maybe on a future episode of the podcast. But Operation Palladium is real. It's been proven. It's been declassified. And this was basically a radar spoofing technology where we were creating false hits on Soviet radar and doing like early stages of like even some holographic stuff. Like it was super Star Trek-y. And this is interesting because if you try to connect the dots, imagine that like Zach Galifianakis, like, ooh, what's going on here? If that memo is real, the quote unquote burned memo, I don't exactly know why it's called that. Maybe it was burned and disposed of. If we are to believe that JFK was requesting the CIA delineate between known and unknown quote unquote UFOs, and he was not aware of Operation Palladium, would this unfortunately like expose the project that the presidents were not aware of when it was being developed? And could this cause problems with what they were secretly doing, you know, with the Soviets in terms of spying and whatnot, without the president knowing? Like he had mentioned, Nixon was aware of Operation Palladium, but then JFK became president and was not made aware of it. Like they said, maybe he was eventually brought in on it, and that's why he was saying, now we need to delineate between what are spoofed UFOs and what are actual UFOs that are being seen in America, stuff like the Washington, D.C. flap over the nation's capital in 1952, and UFOs being seen in Russia at the time. And also this whole idea that JFK was trying to get like friendly with the Soviets at the time, at least our space programs. And maybe the CIA had a big problem with that. They're like, oh God, like, what is he doing? What is he doing? No, we're not going to give any of our information on quote unquote UFOs, what they are or what they aren't, to the Soviets, because they're clearly going to use that against us, like we are with them. Thus the Cold War. So yeah, it's an interesting story. There's a lot of dots that can be connected, and a lot of conspiracies that could be spun around all of this. But I thought it was interesting to at least bring it up, especially with this recent interview that Ross did with the intelligence official out of Australia. So who knows? Maybe if one of these presidents moving forward does declassify more of the JFK assassination information and whatnot, or just things to do with JFK, we will learn more about all of this. I don't know, but I thought it was interesting nonetheless. Someone said Project Bluebeam. Yeah, Bill, that was an interesting one too. People should definitely look into that. Hello to Bill as well. Let me see here. Andre says a lot of ins, a lot of outs, a lot of what have you. Yeah, very true. All right, guys, we're going to move to probably the most controversial story of the night. I don't like talking about this man. Actually, neither of these men, Jaime Maussan and Tim Burchett, but we have to because it's in the headlines right now. And this story comes to us from the Daily Mail in the UK. There's your first sign of hesitancy, but I digress. U.S. Congress to investigate controversial Peru alien mummies amid fears they could be linked to UFOs. So let me get the good old, no, that's not it. Where is it? There it is. Peru's infamous alien mummies are set for the U.S., where Congress has pledged to crack the mysterious case once and for all. Republican Tim Burchett, known for his outspoken criticism of the U.S. government's UFO secrecy, vowed to assemble, quote, the most important people in the world to examine the bodies, which some scientists claim harbor 30% unknown DNA. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video. As you can see, if you're watching this, Jaime Maussan did fly to the U.S. and did meet with Representative Burchett recently. And this is some footage from that meeting. I hope I don't get copyright stricken by Jaime Maussan. Check out these watermarks he has on the video. It's hilarious. And yeah, we'll continue with the story on the other side, guys.
We've been investigating in Peru these pterodactyl creatures.
Yes, sir.
Would you be interested in this subject?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I would be interested in getting some people to analyze those bodies that independent of the federal government.
If we are able to bring them into the States, you would be interested to get involved in that?
Sure. I would help you find somebody to analyze it.
That's very important for many people, you know that.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to bring you here many x-rays, tomographies, whatever you need to take it to any university, any scientist you want, to get your own results. And hopefully, because it is what it is, they will tell you they are real. And if they are real, at that moment you can be absolutely certain that this case is real. And it's very important because we, the civil society of the world, have these bodies. These bodies don't belong, or they are not in the hands of the Peruvian government. We have 7 bodies, humanoid bodies, with 3 fingers, no ears, reptile skin. The fingerprints are or horizontal. And there are so many little details that tell you that they are not human.
Okay.
But we believe we need a champion like you to make this true in America and in the world. Can we come with you?
Yeah, I'll be glad to help you. My science stopped about 1980 at Bearden High School. So we got top people in the world are right here in Tennessee.
You get involved anyone you want.
University of Tennessee. I'm an alma mater. That's my alma mater.
When you are secure. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Interesting. How do I get myself back on? There we are. I'm back. So let's continue with this story here. The congressman said he would initiate this new analysis at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, in his home state. The team at Tennessee have obtained $500,000 from the Department of Justice late last year to better understand skeletal remains and relic DNA. Legal experts also told the Daily Mail that despite Representative Burchett's best efforts, U.S. treaty agreements with Peru could delay transnational shipping of the remains. This is where things get super murky. Because if you guys remember, in the middle of a press conference, I believe it was in maybe Mexico City, just a few months ago, they had the mummies with them. They were talking about them at a press conference, and like the Peruvian cultural representatives and the police literally crashed the press conference, came in and said, hand them over. Those are ours. You know, you're not keeping them here in Mexico City. You're not bringing them anywhere else to be studied. Whatever these things are, they belong to Peru. So this is going to be an uphill battle if any of this actually does come to fruition. I did ask you guys if you think it'll come to fruition on YouTube. I'll check the poll in just a little bit. But I want to continue here. The University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and let me get the slideshow back on. If I can. There we go. I just hate seeing myself full screen. The University of Tennessee, Knoxville, the school that the congressman referenced as a likely candidate for this work, is home to an internationally recognized center for the forensic examination of human remains. It's quote unquote called the Body Farm. That's morbid. Last December, the U.S. Department of Justice's R&D agency, the National Institute of Justice, awarded 2 grants to the farm, more formally known as UT's Forensic Anthropology Center, totaling more than $580,000. One of these grants, amounting to $230,000, will help forensic researchers better grasp the phenomena of so-called relic DNA, which can linger on a site of a forensic interest and thus contaminate dig sites and crime scenes. Blah, blah, blah. They go into more of what these grants could be used for in terms of DNA. Both projects could bring forensic anthropology's latest tech and methodology to bear on the elusive origins of Jaime Maussan's now 7 and counting tridactyl mummies. These mummies are multiplying mummies, which the UFO researcher maintains could be extraterrestrial. Maussan is now suing Peru's government for the right to ship the bodies to more advanced labs in the United States. So far, we have tomographies, which are CT scans, and fluoroscopy analysis, Maussan told Daily Mail, describing the X-ray and ultrasound data on the mummies that he unveiled in March of 2024. And at the conference, he pushed for more analysis of the specimens in a plea for continued inquiry into the body's true origins. Maussan would say, if I were faking this, I wouldn't put it out to the world, to everyone. It's open to everyone. Former Colorado prosecutor Josh McDowell, who led a team of U.S. medical examiners to investigate the alien mummies this April, told the Daily Mail that any effort to have these specimens studied stateside would face diplomatic hurdles. Ideally, you'd want to test the bodies with the best methods and modalities in a state-of-the-art laboratory environment, McDowell elaborated. And that means moving them from Peru for an agreed amount of time to a facility that can employ the best scientific methods. Any study of the bodies would need to be completed with the approval of Peru and the country in which further scientific studies were completed. So there you go, guys. I mean, I can honestly tell you, I did not have U.S. Congress possibly investigating the Masan mummies in 2024. Did not have that on my bingo card, but here we are. I'm going to see what you guys are saying. Man, the chat is going nuts on this one. James Craig says, I don't think Congress will spend 1 cent on these dummies. I mean, mummies. Bill says, the alien cake mummies. Nightgazer brings up a good point here. You guys need to ignore all the talking heads involved and look at the actual science. That is what I'm personally doing right now. A lot of these tests that were done by very credible scientists that have confirmed and have agreed upon that at least a good portion of the DNA found in these mummies is unknown, and they just cannot figure it out. So there is something to be said for the anomalous nature of the DNA found within these mummies. That is not to say they're aliens, or, that they were pieced together, like a lot of people believe they were, using, like plaster and bones of animals and all that. I think we've moved past that. I think. I must admit, I haven't been looking at all of the data that has been provided yet, but I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'm interested to see where this goes. I am. You know what? While I think money could go to much better things at this university in terms of what they're doing there with anthropology and DNA and all of that, if this could put this story to rest, getting these top scientists in the United States, which is what people wanted when this story first came out. Even I was saying, yo, ship those things over and we'll get it sorted in a week. Being the egotistical American, I guess I am, that we'll have the final answer to all of this. We do have a lot of leading scientists in the United States. So if this can put the story to rest either way, I guess I'm for it. We'll see. We'll see. This could really blow up in Tim Burchett's face. It could really blow up in Jaime Maussan's face. But if there's anything we've learned in the UFO field, it's that the UFO field itself has pretty good amnesia. And Maussan has been forgiven many times for the many hoaxes that he's promoted throughout the years as the circus carnival barker that he is. But hey, we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. All Work Lopez says, I mean, I'm all for getting them checked out, if only to disprove them. Yeah. Andre says, this mummy story is not going away. Pat, come on, man. I'm not convinced Burchett isn't a mummy. Yeah, he deserves it. Nightgazer says they're already proven as genuine by 3 independent labs in Latin America, but people in the Anglosphere are dismissing it. That is a good point. I do not want to dismiss the work being done by these 3 independent labs in Latin America. That does say something. That does say something. So if the United States scientists can come up with the same conclusions, then we have a true story on our hands, for sure. All right. Let's move, guys, to our last story of the night. We finally made it. And this is a fun one I thought we would end with tonight. Not the mummies, but the goblins. Hopkinsville Goblins, guys. It is the 69th anniversary of the Hopkinsville Goblin incident. This occurred in 1955 when the family claimed to have been attacked by alien-like creatures. The incident has led to an annual festival in the small community that will take place on August 21st at the Hopkinsville Visitor Center in the Trail of Tears Commemorative Park. So I'm going to go ahead and play this very brief local news clip out of Kentucky. And yeah, we'll end with a little bit more talk about Hopkinsville and close things up here, guys. Give this a watch.
The city of Hopkinsville is preparing for Alien Invasion Day, which commemorates the 69th anniversary of the Kelly-Hopkinsville incident. Previously named the Little Green Men Days, annual celebrations of the incident stopped during the pandemic, and the city is bringing it back next week. Our very own WBKO News reporter William Battle was in Hopkinsville to get the details on the festival.
The Kelly-Hopkinsville encounter occurred in 1955 when a family in the small town of Kelly claimed to have been besieged by small alien-like creatures.
The Sutton family was sitting down to a big, nice family dinner in Kelly, Kentucky. One of the older gentlemen had gone out to the well to gather some water when he said they were visited by what they called 12 little silver men that floated above the ground.
The event became one of the most well-known and investigated cases in UFO lore, fueling debates on extraterrestrial life, mass hysteria, and it created an annual festival in the small community. This year marks the 69th anniversary of the incident.
The Kelly community has had the Kelly Little Green Men Festival every year up until about COVID. We do plan on having a big celebration here on the grounds of the Visitor Center.
In addition to food and games, the celebration will feature a special guest closely related to the original encounter.
Miss Geraldine Stith will be here. She is the daughter of one of the gentlemen who was at the home that night, and she will recount the tale. She travels all over the world telling the story, so she will be here as kind of our keynote speaker.
There will also be a screening of E.T., a film that owes its origin to the Hopkinsville Goblin story. Elements of the original script written by Steven Spielberg also made their way into movies like Gremlins and Poltergeist. The story has been an inspiration in other areas of pop culture.
In the process of designing Pokemon, they actually used the story of the Hopkinsville Goblin, the Kelly Green Men, and the diagrams drawn for the Pokemon Sableye.
There will also be costume contests for children and adults with prizes for the winners.
We're at 1730 East 9th Street here in Hopkinsville. We will start festivities at 4 o'clock on Wednesday, August 21st. That's kind of when the festival games and stuff for the kiddos start.
Reporting in Hopkinsville, William Battle, WBKO News.
That's right. I forgot that they based an entire Pokemon on the Hopkinsville Goblin, Sableye. That's so cool. This story alone has inspired so much. Like they mentioned E.T. And what else did it? Dean Elizondo, the filmmaker guys who made the infamous incident at Lake County. I think it was also called UFO Abduction. It was that it was basically the first ever found footage movie, long before the Blair Witch Project and stuff like that. This was a quote unquote found footage movie about a family who were being attacked in their house by aliens and abducted subsequently. And Dean was on Somewhere in the Skies, in the early days of the show, and talked about all about the inception of this, what inspired him. And the Hopkinsville Goblin case was at the forefront and is why he made that movie after having read about this case. It's such a fascinating case. I love it. I love it. These translucent gliding aliens, and they're shooting bullets at it and they're just bouncing off of them. And throughout the years, we've heard some of the most ridiculous explanations. Like it was circus monkeys that had escaped from a local circus or something, and were attacking this family at their home, and they were climbing all over the place. I seriously doubt that. I mean, these things had the image here doesn't show it, but they had silver suits on. So why would the monkeys have silver suits on? they've said that it was possible that it was long-horned owls at one point. That I could possibly believe, that in the dark they saw these big creatures with glowing eyes, and they were gliding and crawling all over the place. Maybe I could believe that. But either way, this has become a staple in ufology and has inspired people like Spielberg and the likes. So yeah, that's so cool that they're celebrating the 69th anniversary of this with a festival. Like we always say, these festivals in these very small places are a huge source of revenue for the towns, and I'm all for that. I think it's great to embrace the weirdness of your town, and the Hopkinsville case is a primary example of that. You guys are continuing to talk about the mummies, so I'm going to go ahead and go. The chat is insane tonight. Me and Suzanne were laughing and commenting while this last thing was going, of how much fun you guys are having tonight. I love that. I love that you guys are like in your own world, having your own viewing party while we slave away over here. That's how it should be. That is how it should be. Paranormal Pixie, we're going back, guys, again to the mummies for just a moment, just to highlight some of your stuff here. Says, I may not be a fan, but I like that they are attempting to make additional analysis. Yes, agreed. Jeffrey says, I heard Burchett on an episode of Coast to Coast with George Nori. He seems sincere in wanting to get to the bottom of this. Tet says, I believe the mummies are real. Let's see here. Eve says, Gary Nolan says it'll take at least 5 years to get from publishable research in peer-reviewed journals to the scientific diligence to disprove it. That's a long time. That's a long time, but that's the way science goes. All right, and we're moving back to the goblins. Causeway says she travels the world talking about goblins. Hell, why not? Sounds like a dream job to me. I love it. Dalen says, so true. Embrace your town's weirdness. All hail the Pineberg asparagus queen. What is that? I'm going to have to Google that one. Or maybe I shouldn't. Thank you, guys. Thank you for those comments. Do I have anything else here? No, that's going to do it, guys. So tonight, in just a couple hours, actually, we will be premiering a brand new episode of the Somewhere in the Skies podcast, and we are heading to Voronezh in Russia. And we're covering the Voronezh UFO incident and UFOs of Russia with the one, the only Rob Christofferson. Now, this interview originally aired on the Our Strange Skies podcast. However, it was such a fun, interesting conversation that Rob is allowing me to rebroadcast it for you guys. And that will be this week's episode of Somewhere in the Skies. This is probably one of my most favorite conversations I've ever had on the UFO topic. And I was so happy and honored to do it with my good buddy, Rob, from the Our Strange Skies podcast. So I hope you will check that out, premiering in just a couple hours on all of your podcast feeds. And let me know what you think. Rate and review the Somewhere in the Skies podcast wherever you get your podcasts, but primarily on Apple and Spotify. Those Apple podcast ratings and reviews really help us out, guys. So even if you don't listen to the show on Apple, if you could head over there and do a rating and review, I would certainly appreciate it. It helps us get boosted up and featured and seen by more people in the algorithms. And the same goes for Spotify as well. So rate, review, anywhere you can, but specifically Spotify and Apple will help us tremendously. So thank you for that. And last but not least, we opened a shop for Anomicon. So you can get your official Anomicon merch before the event. Rock it while you're watching it. We've got t-shirts, mugs, tank tops, hats, stickers, buttons, hoodies, you name it. It's in the merch shop. And that's all available right now at anomicon.com. And if you do end up getting any, send those pictures to us, put them on your Twitter, #Anomicon. I have a couple items coming in the mail. Hopefully they'll be waiting for me when I get back home to Scotland. And yeah, I cannot wait to see you guys September 1st and September 2nd. Again, you can learn more at anomicon.com. A very special thank you to everyone who gave us a super chat or super sticker tonight. We truly do appreciate that. Thank you to all our Patreon and Apple Premium subscribers. Your monthly or yearly donations truly make a difference, and I hope you enjoy all of the rewards that you get in return over there. If you guys want to become a Patreon subscriber, you can learn more in the show notes. And an Apple Premium subscriber, just click that subscribe button at the top of your Apple Podcast feed. And thank you to our YouTube members as well. I know we have a few of those over here on YouTube. You get all of the same benefits and rewards right here on YouTube if you become a YouTube member today. All right, that is going to do it, guys. So from me, from Suzanne, we thank you guys immensely for joining us tonight on another episode of Somewhere in the Live Stream. I believe we have one more before Anomicon. So be on the lookout next week for that. Be on the lookout for our brand new episode tonight. Hello to Kari. I see you just hopped in. Good to see you. Good to see you. And yeah, guys, that's going to do it. Thank you. Thank you for being here. And I will leave you with our mantra, as always, here. And that is, keep your feet on the ground, but never stop searching somewhere in the skies. Have a good night, and we'll talk soon.
There's nothing to hide. There's nothing to hide at all.